Wildlife on One started 16 years ago, and in that time it's shown over 100 films. To celebrate the fact, we're going to show a dozen of the best. I can promise you that they'll be very varied, both in the animals they show, the places they visit, and the styles they employ. Many of them were the first work of filmmakers who went on to achieve international reputations. Do you remember that sequence in Trials of Life of killer whales surging up a beach and grabbing sea lion pups? Well, that was shot by an American team, Mike Degree and Paul Atkins. This, however, is the first film that they made. It features another sea animal, one rather smaller, but one which is, I think, equally dramatic and certainly more extraordinary. Extraterrestrials are as curious about us as we are about them. On a Pacific island, a Polynesian girl is spellbound by a strange sight. "3,000 miles away in Texas, scientists are also making contact with this mysterious life form.
Dark.
Tentacles come out.
Look at the ventral papilla. Isn't that neat?
Oh, yeah.
It almost looks hydrodynamic. It doesn't seem real. Gee, that's unbelievable.
Just hovering like a spaceship. It has perfect neutral density. Beautiful. Look at that passing cloud. Fabulous.
These unusual beings are capable of the most staggering feats of color change. But what do these pulsing patterns mean? Are these creatures signaling to one another? Are they perhaps trying to communicate with our world? The search to discover their hidden secrets is only beginning. This is the story of our quest to understand them. Catching a glimpse of the aliens is not easy. But the smoke screen they throw up to cover their activities is starting to clear away. Our knowledge is coming out of the dark. These remarkable animals are cuttlefish. Incredibly, they're relatives of the lowly slugs and winkles, but they are the concords of the snail family. In captivity, they quickly become friendly with humans. They can be tamed and will readily come to hand to be fed, hitting the target every time with deadly precision. The high-speed tentacle strike is so accurate that they can normally discriminate between fingers and food. But a finger on its own proves an irresistible attraction to these playful and inquisitive animals. Cuttlefish, like their relatives, the squids and octopuses, are cephalopods, the most advanced soft-bodied animals on planet Earth. Their natural domain is the inner space of the oceans. But here at Waikiki Aquarium in Hawaii, close encounters of this kind are on public display. The cuttlefish are the star attraction, and their seemingly friendly antics delight thousands of visitors.
What color's on this one over here? It's pretty.
The way those fins undulate, that is really beautiful.
Yeah, it's like a hovercraft, sort of
That's right.
floating there.
They have a well-developed brain and a high intelligence, measured even by vertebrate standards. At times, a brilliant kaleidoscope of color patterns radiates across their bodies.
Like a spaceship.
But the patterns, look at the colors on. Look at that one right over there.
Oh, that's fantastic.
The pattern just kind of flashing back and forth.
It just looks like a
Wow.
completely different animal all the time.
Well, I don't see how they do all that. It looks like neon or
Scientists believe these signals form the basis of a visual language whose messages we are only beginning to interpret. Until very recently, this species, with its marvelous displays and masquerades, was virtually unknown. They're not native to Hawaii, and the few divers who've observed them in the wild had to travel to the remote jungle-covered rock islands of Palau in Micronesia, 4,000 miles to the west. Spectacular coral reefs fringe these lonely tropical islands. In these clear waters, on an afternoon in the summer of 1982, divers spotted a majestic cuttlefish cruising purposefully over the reef, like some multicolored submarine. Intrigued by this strange apparition and curious about its behavior, they followed in its wake. Unperturbed by the presence of the cameraman, the cuttlefish began to lay eggs, using her arms to transfer them delicately out of sight to crevices in the coral. Identified as Sepia latimanus, so rarely seen it has no common name, she belonged to the largest cuttlefish species, capable of growing several feet in length. Her sons and daughters were to become the first of their race to be successfully raised in captivity. Some of the hundreds of eggs laid were collected and taken to the aquarium, where, from the first day of hatching, they were encouraged to establish an intimate familiarity with humans. Overcoming our distorted view of the cephalopod world is the aim of researchers at Galveston, Texas. They keep a close watch on all the animals in their laboratory. Long before our discovery of jet engines, cephalopods were jetting through the seas, propelled by water forced through a funnel on the undersurface of their body. Octopuses are reared here also. A sophisticated life support system of tanks and plastic shelters provides them with all the comforts of home. Out of water, the octopus body sags like a deflated balloon. The 8 supple tentacles which radiate from the head are virtually pure muscle tissue and can exert tremendous strength. Their unyielding grip makes it very difficult to prise the suckers free. Each arm is covered in several hundred of the sensitive suckers, which are not only used for holding on, but also provide chemical and tactile information about the surroundings. There is little delicacy in the mating embrace of the octopus. Here, 2 males compete for 1 female in an extraordinary wrestling match. Just who is doing what seems impossible to judge amidst the writhing tangle of arms. Eventually, a partnership is formed, and the male, on the right, will pass his sperm into the female using a modified arm called the hectocotylus. In the laboratory, plastic pipes prove perfect sites for attaching egg clusters, and octopus mothers take their maternal duties seriously. The eggs are constantly guarded, cradled, and caressed to clean and aerate them, exactly as they would be in the wild. Even here, tiny hatchlings live in a competitive, watery jungle. Several kinds of octopus are cultured in Galveston, and not all make good neighbours, content to remain quietly curled up at home. These are experts at breaking and entering. Octopus annoyance can express itself in a dance of frustration, but the only sure way to avoid eviction is to close firmly the door on intruders. In the wild, octopuses build their lairs in empty shells or in the rocky recesses of reefs. This artificial sea floor allows scientists to study in detail their extraordinary skills in manipulating objects. With no joints to hinder movement, the tentacles can bend anywhere along their length. Each sucker can even move on its own. Feeding time reveals the glutton in the octopus. As many as a dozen crabs in succession may be drawn into the web formed by the arms. With the prey pinioned in a lethal stranglehold, the octopus delivers its coup de grace. Using its hidden beak to pierce the crab shell, it injects a fast-acting nerve poison which paralyzes its victim. After a few convulsive tremors, the crab is dead. A digestive enzyme is injected to liquefy its tissues, which are absorbed by the octopus. At the end of a meal, a perfect disarticulated crab skeleton is all that remains. Those who work with octopuses are constantly amazed by them. A major problem facing the researcher is how to thwart their incredible ingenuity in finding ways of escape. The octopus is the Houdini of the sea, but even that great escapologist would have been amazed by its contortions as it squeezes through the tightest of spaces. Keeping octopuses in their tanks may be difficult. The opposite is true of another cephalopod, the sepiolid. This delightful creature actually prefers being enclosed, burying itself on the bottom wherever possible. When almost covered, their long tentacles snake out, adding the finishing touches to their camouflage. Patches of colour on their adhesive skin help to complete the deception. Only a passing shrimp will tempt them out. The diminutive bay squid lives in brackish waters just offshore from the Galveston laboratory. Squids are the most numerous and ferocious cephalopods. They vary in size from finger-length specimens like these to the mighty giant squid, which exceeds 17 meters in length and can engage sperm whales in battle. Squid tentacles are perhaps the most specialized grasping organs in nature, allowing them to overpower and hold on to struggling, slippery prey almost as large as themselves. Highly social, schooling creatures, squid have superb eyesight and communicate with one another using combinations of arm postures and patterns of colored spots, streaks, and splotches. These displays and pulsating colors form the grammar of the squid's visual language. It's this behavior which particularly fascinates the Galveston scientists. To learn that mysterious language fluently, they need a regular and reliable supply of animals. These are collected at night on the calm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, where the squid are attracted to bright lights on the surface. Back in the laboratory, work goes on through the night on the freshly caught squid. Roger Hanlon uses lightly anesthetized animals to examine the bursts of color on the skin's surface. Even a sleepy squid needs careful handling. The parrot-like beak can deliver a nasty bite. But it's the brain behind the bite that is most intriguing to scientists like Hanlon.
The skin of the cephalopods is a perfect two-dimensional view of the brain. What you have are nerves coming out of the chromatophore lobes, and when innervation takes place, you get something on the skin that says, there's nervous activity. So in fact, what you have in a pattern is a window into the brain.
The color comes from tiny round cells called chromatophores. Each one is an elastic sac containing colored pigment which can expand or contract under nervous control. The mechanism is unique in nature, and the rapidity of change is incredibly fast. Underlying iridescent cells add color by reflecting ambient light like minute mirrors. It's the nervous control which allows the kaleidoscope of colors to sweep over the body like some animated neon sign. In squid, this magical signaling system first begins to stir in their egg clusters laid on the sea floor. Early embryonic stages show no sign of chromatophore activity. Only as the nervous system develops do they begin to display their first decorative spots of living jewelry. When they hatch, they have a juvenile coat of scattered polka dots, an adequate enough vocabulary for squid baby talk. By adulthood, the patterns become very elaborate, and mature squid may be capable of transmitting many different messages at the same time to several other individuals, a feat which would tax our ingenuity. But as Hanlon cautions,
the truth is we're only beginning to understand the range of complexity of the patterns. and we're even farther yet from understanding what they mean and how they're used. The patterns are simply too complicated to describe in a cephalopod. They change rapidly, they grade one into the other, and it's simply too complex for the human mind to comprehend what one pattern is. We're looking at videotape recordings of the skin of Loligoplei. This is taken at a magnification of 12 times their original size. You can see small dots expanding into large bursts of color, and each one of these is a chromatophore. So the combinations of colors that you can get are nearly infinite simply by using 3 colors in different grades of expansion and also getting overlap among them. Some of these visual displays are very dramatic. For example, the passing cloud pattern that it's found in octopuses and in cuttlefishes. In this situation, there are waves of color passing from the rear of the animal to the front of the animal just over a period of seconds. The function of these patterns are, number 1, to mesmerize prey, and number 2, to confuse a predator just for an instant in order to escape. Many times when a small cuttlefish will approach a small shrimp near the bottom and the shrimp is turned directly towards it, the cuttlefish will raise several of its arms and this passing cloud will move right across its body, looking totally unlike anything that shrimp has ever seen, and will mesmerize it just for a second. During that instant, the tentacles will shoot out and seize the shrimp.
Not every attack is accompanied by rolling waves of color. They also contort their arms and bristle their skin. The result is a creature of fearsome appearance. Unbelievable though it may seem, cephalopods are color-blind. For them, it is not color, but the boldness and brightness of their patterns which are important in communication. But their enemies, like the Murray eel, do have excellent color vision. Cephalopod colors may have evolved to allow them to blend with different backgrounds and avoid detection by predators. Other flamboyant reef dwellers, like the anemone fish, are stuck with a permanent color scheme. So is the mandarin fish. Only the cuttlefishes and their kin have a wardrobe for every occasion. Large crabs are formidable foes, and paralyzing venom must be injected quickly to avoid damage from their sharp pincers. A partially hidden crab refuses to budge. Even the hungriest cuttlefish eventually has to switch off and look elsewhere. It's hard to imagine an alien being with the strangeness and variety of these entrancing animals. Perhaps we need go no further than the depths of inner space in the oceans around us to get an idea of what life might be like on another planet.
Next week's offering at the same time uses pioneering techniques to give a stunning bird's-eye view of buzzards, geese and starlings in flight. and David Attenborough focuses